as we reflect on and share the story, I just want to share with you one of my favorite gospel texts. It's John 15:15. Jesus says, "I don't call you servants any longer, because a servant does not know the master's business. No, I call you friends, because I've made known to you everything I've learned from my Father." I find that a most beautiful text. I call you friends because I've made known to you everything I've learned from my Father. There you have the heart of community. The question I always ask myself is, I call you servants no longer. Would he ever have called them servants? Never. Never. It's just a reminder that everything in the gospel is true, and some of it actually happened. Do you know what that means? So, what did he share with them? What did he share with them? Do you think he stood with them one day and says, "I'm really going to let you in into a big, big secret. Actually, I am the second person of the Blessed Trinity." Hardly likely. So what did he actually share with them? I think he shared his kingdom dream and all that that implied. But we'll talk about it a little bit. But the most important thing is, what have you learned from God over the past 6 years that you now have to share with your sisters in chapter? That's the important thing. What have you learned over the past 6 years? Your previous chapter message, your own journey in life. Because God is a God of constant revelation. Revelation is not over. There's a constant revelation going on. So what have you learned that it is now your responsibility to share with your sisters in chapter? I believe that Jesus shared with them his own religious search, his own disconnect between his experience of God and the messages he received from his religious tradition. He shared his indignation and unease about the exploitation and marginalization of his people. They are a subjugated people. They're an occupied territory. What does it feel like? He told them about the ridiculous burdens religious leaders placed on people in the name of God. He shared with them how his own world was being widened the more he began to understand the love of the one he called Abba. When God touches our lives, my brother and sisters, when God touches our lives, our worlds are blown open. And they open in a way that we never dreamt possible. Our fear is to allow this God into our lives because we don't want our worlds to be blown open. And what I find the saddest thing when I'm sharing with my brothers is to say, take the risk. Allow this God into your life and see the freedom that enters. See the freedom that enters. And you know something? When you look at the scriptures, you will recognize that it is women who widened Jesus' life. It's women who did that. He was constantly fighting the men and hoping. But then he'd come across women and he'd say, holy God. And I often think of Jesus by himself under the stars at night or early morning when he'd commune with this person that was wrapped up in him. He'd say, every time I think I know you, you widen the goalposts. That's what women were doing. Just look at the woman with the issue of blood. The woman with the coin that is put in over there. The woman who washed his feet. And of course, the Syrophoenician woman. They were all the time opening him up to recognize God. And let me tell you, this is not disloyalty to Jesus. Saying, well, he was God, he knew everything. Forget that. It doesn't work. If he's truly like us in all things but sin, he grew, as the scriptures say, in age and grace and wisdom and the experience of God. Why do you only hear about Jesus after the baptism? Because it was at the baptism that the big bang took place in his life. More of that later. We see in the gospel moments when he called the disciples aside and showed them what he had seen. And he said, come here. Do you see that woman? Do you see what she just did? What was happening? These were the God moments. If God is all around us, God has to be active, but we don't see it. And when you have the eyes to see, you'll recognize it all over the place. The mystics could do that. And he shared with them finally his own frustrations at their blindness. Do you know that when you get this God that is speaking all the time and is making God's self visible all the time, the invisible becomes visible. By that I mean you really see the marginalized, the people that are meant to be invisible, the people that society tries to airbrush out of the picture. They become visible. And that, when that happens, a whole new world of understanding is born. And so I come to the last part of this. What Jesus really shared with his disciples was his experience of God. Every chapter is an experience of God. And that is why when you go away from here, you go back to your sisters and they say, tell us, what was the chapter like? And you say, oh, it was a wonderful experience. And that's not very helpful.